Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Chrism, and I would like to welcome you to a conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. This episode is titled Kundalini Sat Sang. So, everybody, sit down and get ready to sing. And I'll start it off right here. See if this works. Not sure that's working. Let's see, Santara, I noticed you're on right now.
Yes, Chrism, I can hear a very slight music if you want to turn it up.
No, that's okay, but I want you to know that I'm hearing a lot of static from your end when you're on.
Okay, I'm going off again, I'm muting.
Okay. Okay, everybody, so today I would like to talk with you a bit about some things that have come up with regards to Shaktipat and things of that nature. But first, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in. I would like to thank Amelia Santara and her family for sponsoring this program so that everyone can be the beneficiary of this information. This is not common information. This is authentic Kundalini awakening information that can help you if you're already on that path or if you are seeking to begin to walk that path. Your Kundalini will recognize truth within the levels of this information that you're listening to now. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank people for tuning in the future in the archives. I believe Santara has a few announcements that she would like to make.
Yes, Chrism, thank you very much. There are a few. I'm streaming my own voice actually. Range. Am I coming through okay?
I can hear you in my headphones.
Okay. Well, every week I give you listeners a place on the web which you can go to if you want to make a donation to Kundalini Awakening, which of course is a donation to support the work we does. But this week I'd like to share with you something that happened regarding donation. Well, I think they're like a teaching or a lesson in what occurs. First of all, donations are in no way about a contract of sale. Recently, a person asked for his $240 donation to be returned to him, as he was not going to be partaking of the Shaktipat, and also he needs the $80 for his own living expenses, he said. Now, Chrism never has and never will charge for Shaktipat. Chrism is on record over and over again as saying that the divine is not for sale.
Amelia?
Grace is not grace. Yeah?
You're evidently, people are hearing a huge echo with you. So I don't know what you did differently today that you didn't do last week. But try to go back to how the setup was last week when you didn't have the echo. Okay?
Okay, Chris.
Thank you, my dear. Okay, I was being asked about how that Amelia was coming in doubled, so we're going to try to correct that. I don't know where she left off with the donations, but here's the scenario with the donations. Do not donate if you with your rent money or with the only food money that you have, or if it is to the degree that you're going to suffer harshly because you donated money to me or to Kundalini Awakening Systems. I don't want you to donate it. I want you to spend your money on you, your money on your food, your rent, your gasoline purchases, the financial responsibilities that you have in your life, everything. And then then and only then, if you have some that you can budget to Kundalini Awakening Systems, then yes, that gift is welcomed and appreciated. But what I don't want to what I would ask you not to do is to give money that you need for your survival, that is vital to your existence. I want you to spend that on you, okay? Please, really. I'm getting, people do a lot of different things, and some of the people have been donating with the idea that if they pay me money for the Shakti pot, therefore the Shakti pot will really be given to them, as opposed to just, doing the Shakti pot. I see that you're there, Santara. Doing the Shakti pot and doing it with the expectation that it's the Shakti pot that is being given to you through divine auspices. It's the Shakti pot that is giving itself to you, and you cannot charge for a Shakti pot. How do you determine the value of divinity? How do you determine the value of grace? How do you determine the activities of divine grace upon you? Where does that come up within the the machinations of finances? How much is it worth? A penny? $1 billion? Where do you draw the line? So I don't see that you could really have a value connected to the Shakti pot. Shakti pot, for those of you who are just listening, is new to this, is the way of transferring. Oh, actually, it's a way of my Kundalini igniting another person's Kundalini, which to some degree is already happening on this show. For those of you who are listening to this show, the Kundalini in me is writing the sound waves that it produces through me into your ear, into your spinal cord, into all of your chakras, from the base to the top of your crown and beyond, into your cells and your bones and your enzymes and your blood and your flesh, and all of the different systems that combine to make you the physical person that you are. So there is no price. It is priceless. Kundalini awakening is priceless. Now, for my time, for my teachings, for the things that I do to assist other people, yes, I can accept a donation for that. The Kundalini allows me to accept donations within those understandings, but certainly not as a way of buying grace. Grace is not for sale, at least not from me. I am not allowed to accept any kind of money that is for Shaktipat. I can accept donations that are for teaching, explanation, all of the different things I do, to support and to manifest a greater level of understanding and learning within the Kundalini awakening subject. So I just wanted to put that out there. And Santara, do you have anything to add?
Hi, Chrism. Well, first of all, give me some feedback. Is the voice okay? The echo gone?
Let's see. Let's bring Eileen on. Hello, Eileen. You're on the air.
Hello, I'm here.
Can you hear whether Amelia's doubling up or not?
She was very faint this last time. I could hardly hear her, so I couldn't tell.
Okay.
She was doubling.
Well,
I couldn't. Oh, there you are.
Hi, Eileen. How are you? Can you hear me okay now?
Now you're coming in fine. This is fine.
Good, Amelia.
Okay,
now,
that's great.
Amelia, you don't need to shout, though, okay? It's not a matter of volume. Okay. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, there's nothing to add, really. I was just going to give people the actual place that they can go to. I was actually going to give a quote from you that was posted recently on the Yahoo group. So I think I'll do that anyway, seeing as I have it in front of me. And it says from Chrism, as I am given to teach and spend time and give what I can to those who wish to receive, I will ask that you not donate to receive enlightenment. As the Shakti part is given, it is not for sale. No donation covers this. It is for the teachings and the time and the energy spent in assisting that I am grateful for your kind and considerate gifts. And so, dear listeners, here's the place to go to if you wish to donate. It's www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. And will I speak a little now about the seminar, Chrism, or will I wait till later?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay. Well, there's going to be a seminar in Ireland. It's a European seminar, and the location is in Ireland, and it is in County Dublin. Well, actually, it's in County Meath, but it is only 30 minutes from Dublin Airport, and it is happening on October the 19th and 20th. Well, it's beginning on October the 18th at about 7 p.m. And there's a lovely venue which we will be able to enjoy together, starting on the 7th at 7 o'clock on October the 18th and going right through until Sunday, October the 20th at 4 p.m. So this is an invitation to everybody, those in Europe, London, Scotland. I know that we're going to have some visitors from across the water, which I'm really looking forward to. So if you would like more information on the seminar, you can contact me at kundalinimatters@gmail.com, or you can also find information about it on Kundalini Awakening Seminar on Facebook, or actually it is posted on lots of the Kundalini Awakening System groups. So again, my email is kundalinimatters@gmail.com, so do get in contact with me and I can answer any questions that you might have. That's it, Chrism.
Well, thank you, Amelia, and thank you, Eileen, and everybody who we always seem to have some technical issues come up, and I'll have to tell you something right off the bat, that Kundalini itself, its vibratory frequency, it has a defined effect upon electrical or electromagnetic-based machines and systems, everything from your car to your TV to your computer. I can't tell you. I have a stack of computer laptops here that have been broken by the Kundalini. I need you to know that. I've noticed that the iPad is still working after 2 years, and I'm happy to see that, and I'm actually using that right now for this broadcast. But Kundalini has a defined effect upon the electrical functionality of many of the appliances that we kind of take for granted these days, like cell phones and iPads and iPad minis and all the different Google products and Samsung products that are out there. I've noticed that Samsung does tend to, at least some of the earlier products that I was using that were made by Samsung did tend to get a little affected by the Kundalini. So just so you know that if you are having electrical issues or you can't boot your computer up or something, you get the blue screen of death or something like that, if you are Kundalini awakened or Kundalini active and you have this energy pulsing through you, your energy is also pulsing through that computer. And you need to be aware of that and know there's not anything that you can do about it. Kundalini, that's just one of the costs of having Kundalini. And this is an evolution. This Kundalini is evolution that can be sudden. And I'm going to suggest that Kundalini can speed up the evolutionary process for an individual. And I will also suggest that we do not know what the divine blueprint has in store for us as we transform due to the Kundalini. We can't guess. We're not allowed to know to some degree. Now, the Kundalini may give some teachings within the dream state or in a vision or in some, a very dedicated level of communication for that individual about what they're here to do or why they're here to do what they're here to do. It's not that Kundalini is giving you the silent treatment. It's more that it's waiting for you to come up to a level of evolution that allows you to participate more fully within the grand agenda that the Kundalini not only has for you, but has for those around you, including your loved ones. Kundalini, let's look at the physics of Kundalini for a little bit right now. From a physics standpoint, you'll have an energy packet that is circling around we'll just call it an atom. So the electrons would be Kundalini circling around that proton and that nucleus. And for a Kundalini person, that electron is going at a certain amount of speed. We'll call that a K electron. A Kundalini electron is moving around at a certain speed. Well, when it comes to other people who are not quite, who are not into having the Kundalini, well, those electrons will actually crash into the energetic electrons that are going at, say, a slower pace within that other individual, and it will speed up their process, thereby speeding up their evolution. And this can happen to your friends and to your family, to your spouse, or those who come into a consistent and concentrated form of contact with you and your Kundalini. And once again, this is not anything that you have control over. This is part of the process of having Kundalini. And I don't want you to fear for your kids. Oh my gosh, my kids might start seeing these entities, or I start seeing entities and I see them walk into my child's room and my child comes away. Everybody has a level of guidance and protection that comes with them into a physical existence and physical expression. I don't want you to think that your kids or your friends or your family are just being abandoned to the wild ravages of a Kundalini awakening. That's not true at all. They have their own agenda within the Kundalini. They've chosen to be with you as you have your awakening, and they have been given certain functions that are not necessarily conscious within them that will ameliorate any kind of a negative or hurtful type of scenario that isn't there to teach them. So you don't get the arbitrary, entity going in there and like hurting your children or something like. You won't get that. You won't get that. And I want you to be okay with having your Kundalini and having a family and having a relationship and having a spouse and boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. So I want you to know this. I want you to know that you really can't predict how or forecast how this is going to have an effect on your families and your relationships. Yet it is there, and it is evolving, and therefore you are evolving within this force. And as these certain evolutions apply to us within the structure of grace that is being given, I mean, everybody has their unique structure of grace that the Kundalini is following, that blueprint, that divine blueprint that Kundalini is following. And within that structure of grace and support, you will discover your own unique evolution. Now, before I get going really in depth with this, I want to give out the phone number. The phone number is 347-934-0026. I would like to say hello to Brandon and Fashji and Tim Ashworth. Hello. I'd like to say hello to guest number 2247 and 2260. And welcome everybody. And thank you for listening live on the show, Rosemary and Eileen and the other person with the 520 area code. Thank you for listening. It's very, very nice to hear you. I was joking a little bit, Fashji, about the topic today. The topic today basically is going to be different levels of conversation about Kundalini evolution. And so as we are introduced into the Kundalini and by our karma, we are changed by this introduction and by this recognition of who we are and how we are. And so because we're individuals, we are different, and our, how that looks and feels to us is determined by our levels of surrender and acceptance to the Kundalini grace, as well as from a karmic pattern of expression. And this is a beautiful and vast and loving new experience and expression that comes with this sudden and irrefutable evolution. I write the word irrefutable because that is what that is. Okay? We are changed. And in many ways, we are upgraded and advanced into areas of great expression and experience that are normally held for those who hold a very high spiritual expression. A high priest, a high priestess, a reverend. But just because these people in this life are choosing to express spiritually that way, it does not take away another person's life where they studied their whole lifetime just to have the Kundalini. They meditated, they prayed, they practiced, they gave service, they were loving, they were helpful, they were patient, they were forgiving. And in this life, they're not that high priestess or that high priest or reverend or pope or whatever you want to use. Now they're a janitor. Now they're a young person working in a fast food restaurant. Now they're an insurance worker, or now they're a police officer, now they're a doctor, now they're a whatever. But they're having the Kundalini based upon largely what they have done in another existence to prepare for it. Okay, and so this would be from a karmic pattern of expression. Now, so you don't have to be a high priest or priestess. Yes, many of these positions are very helpful, but so is all of the other positions that I mentioned with regards to how a person can be expressing themselves now. If you're a teacher, if you're a janitor, if you're a ditch digger, if you're homeless, if you're a business executive, a physicist, a doctor, a politician, right now, those people can be just as activated by the Kundalini and awakened by the Kundalini as anybody who is of a high spiritual understanding in this expression of their life. So nobody is taken out of the evolution by virtue of life choices that they're making right now. And for many of you that are Kundalini aware, and by aware I mean they're not activated, you're not awakened yet, but you're aware of it. And some of you may be pursuing it based upon that awareness. For many of you that are doing that right now, it's good to understand that Kunalini is really guiding your life choices. So for whatever reason you need to be that janitor, whatever reason you need to be that farmer, whatever reason you need to be that politician or that teacher or that doctor or that physicist or that whatever it may be, waitress, waiter. Okay, you need to be that right now. And it is no less and it is no more important than any of the other positions. You know, we place we place career and a job or a position of employment as a way of determining how we fit into society, and this is mostly of an egoic nature. So I'm going to suggest that you take the ego out of the job that you're doing. And if you're already Kundalini awakened, if you're already Kundalini active, you'll feel a response, a positive response from the Kundalini when you begin to subtract the ego importance that we place upon our careers and what it is we have chosen to do for a living. It's very important that we don't go into competition with other people. Okay, I know. You know, a lot of people want to be competitive, and yes, you're a fine competitor, and and from within an athletic understanding, I can understand that. When I was doing athletics, they'd say things like that about me as well, It's just that we evolve away from that. We no longer need that. When we're younger, or we're in our teens and 20s and even 30s, we can go about this in a very highly competitive way. But when you start to come into the understandings given from the Kundalini, you begin to see that competition is not necessarily a helpful attribute within spiritual evolution. Okay, so I want you to understand that. It's not so easy for us to surrender to these understandings or to this evolution, because it requires trust in an unseen and not well understood force. And, these things can be frightening. As we were talking a while ago about the dark night of the soul, one thing that I neglected to maybe mention as much as perhaps I should have is the understanding of absolute abandonment. You can feel as if you're absolutely abandoned by your Kundalini in this space where you're completely alone, totally cut off from everything. And this includes the skills that the Kundalini, brings to a person. Everything is cut off to see how you respond. It is a grand examination, a grand test for you, as a person going through the Kundalini evolution, to look at and to respond to in a positive way. Yes, the initial outlay is to see what levels of being terrified you respond to the most, but how that fear evolves and how you're able to come out of this experience without being so heavily laden with fear is the real product of this experience. But it can be so very fearful. We can be so very fearful of anything that we do not understand from an ego consciousness standpoint, and we want familiarity, and yet this cannot be given all the time within divine parameters. You can't be given everything because we're being trained to trust or to have faith. And as I said before, when you're developing faith, you cannot know the answers. Okay? So we're being trained to trust our Kundalini process. And we will have to do this whether or not we want to. Okay? We can come kicking and screaming, or we can come voluntarily. In some things, we are not allowed to have an ego or conscious choice within the flesh expression. And this is where we're forced to have trust and develop that confidence in the competency of our Kundalini process that's being given to us. I will suggest that you honor this great and amazing process within you. We must embrace our Kundalini evolution. Even though it goes outside of our reference points and our comfort zones, as we embrace, we are able to be assured that we are in harmony and resonance with our own divine evolutionary imperative. This is very, very, very important. And, within this surrender, once again, it's not surrendering to an enemy or anything like this. Is surrendering to a greater force that is already within you. It's already within you, okay? And by achieving that surrender, after a while, it takes a little bit of time, actually a lot of time for some of us, but by surrendering, we can achieve a level of balance. And this balance can serve us in many ways. We must always be looking to attain balance inside the Kundalini. And as we live in times of severe distraction, sporting events, political events, social unrest, social networks, television, jobs, children, there are a lot of things that can distract us from this path. And, I want to take a moment and really help you to allow your balance to supersede these distractions. These distractions are based in desires. You know, I want to be noticed. I want to have this. I want to have that. I want to be in control. I want, you know, all of these things are based in the ego consciousness level of fear of loss and want of gain. Remember that equation: fear of loss and want of gain. And with the Kundalini, that can mean not activating or not coming awake in a person just to revisit a beautiful, blissful experience. These parts of the Kundalini agenda will come of their own, or the Kundalini's agenda will be honored more than your desire of a certain aspect of that agenda. Your desire, your wish, can become an impediment to receiving, these amazing states. And so, balance allows all the aspects of an activation or awakening to express simultaneously and without undue stress or damage to one system or another. Forgiveness, if you do a lot of forgiveness, then you're bringing in a lot of balance, especially when you remember to forgive yourself. Now, there's a high frequency of unity and harmony of interaction as all the aspects of an awakening or activation come into expression. And not just those that the individual may hope will bring the qualities of bliss or joy, ecstasy. These are merely manifestations of the balanced state. And the longevity is reflected by the strength of that balance. And so the more balanced you are, the greater your understandings, the stronger your reference points, you don't necessarily allow yourself to be controlled by your ego consciousness fear response. Okay? So when you do your practice, your spiritual practice, I want you to practice all sides of the equation and work with all five bodies. And we do that with the safeties. So remember to practice the safeties. If you're doing yoga, if you have a yoga practice, make sure you remember to do the left and the right sides of the body equally. If you're doing the Tibetans, and this is more of a vertical Tibetan yoga, make sure that you do the rights correctly. Okay, practice. It just takes practice, and you'll get it. You'll get it, and within that practice, you will find your balance within the Kundalini, because the Kundalini requires balance, and it will enforce that. It will push you and push you and push you until you find that balance point. And so it's not pushing you to hurt you, it's pushing you to evolve you. Always, always, always the Kundalini itself, that consciousness within you, is happy, joyful, blissful, loving. Yes, it will bring up some of the more challenging aspects of your existence and maybe some other existences. It will, of course, bring that up because it needs to take it out of your system. It needs to leach it out of your system. And so, the Kundalini will do what it needs to do in order to bring a balance inside of you. And this balance has to do with, how much energy you give yourself to do certain things. What organization of time, the time within your 24 hours day, how much of that do you give to the Kundalini? How much of that do you give to your evolution? How much of that do you give to your balance? Well, I'm going to suggest you give it all to the Kundalini, because the Kundalini is inside you. It's not going anywhere. And if you say no to it, it won't necessarily listen to you. It'll push its agenda. And so as much as possible, I'm going to suggest that you begin to form your response to the Kundalini closer to what the Kundalini wants rather than what your ego wants. And I'm being given to give you the phone numbers again, and here it is. United States area code 347-934-0800. 0026. 347-934-0026. And so the Kundalini will push you towards that balance, and the activation itself requires a balanced positioning of sacred male and sacred female. And by balanced, I mean you need to recognize that gender, man and woman, are 50% of an equation. One is not stronger or more important than the other. In many ways, it reflects the male, female, mother, father image that a lot of us with kids, we are those people every day. We're father and we're mother, or grandfather and grandmother. Okay, and so the way you would expect your kids to listen to you and to follow your direction is the way that I'm going to suggest you follow the Kundalini's direction within you. You now are the sacred child, but you've come through a huge evolutionary leap. Huge. And within that grand virtuosity of evolution, you need some balance. You need to have a balance within your identification with gender judgment. The sacred feminine is just as powerful and just as strong as the sacred male, and vice versa. Please understand that, and as you do make that understand, I want you to go through your life allowing the Kundalini to do what it needs to do with you. Now, you may need to have a conversation with the Kundalini about what is happening to you, say, within a work environment. So, for instance, there's a stage of the awakening that allows a person to be given orgasms every 6 or 7 minutes, 8 minutes. This often comes to the feminine, the person who is a woman in this physical expression right now. And, this will happen during meetings. This will happen during one-on-one lunches. This will happen during the functioning of your job. And I just want you to really, if it's getting in the way of having a meeting, then I want you to talk with your Kundalini and ask for it to express that way at another time in your day. And this allows you to develop a rapport and a communication, and it feeds the trust and faith that you have in the Kundalini and that you'll need as your phenomena continues to increase. Okay, so pray and meditate and move, be still, see all as you and you as all. And if you work with this in mind throughout your life, you'll begin to see and take note of the balance that is happening all around you and within you. The balance in nature, in social dynamics, between the polarities. Kundalini goes towards the balance. Okay? Balance between the positive and the negative. So you have one pillar of grace, and we call that the positive. You have another pillar of grace, and we call that the negative. And then those two pillars form the largest pillar between the three pillars, and that would be the middle path, the Sushumna, the spinal cord. That is the path that the Kundalini person strives to walk within a balanced format. Okay? So take a look at how you live your life and practice your practice. See where more balance can be given, and then give it and stick to it. Use the examples given by your divine source and by your direction, and learning from your Kundalini, and really go with balance within this most sacred and important experience. Just think about it. 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 legs, and so forth. Balance is the platform of convergence for the qualities and attributes of higher dynamics within the human being system of spiritual evolution. Okay? So I want to give you the phone numbers again. I do want to encourage people to call in. It is 347-934-0026. 0026. And with any aspect of your Kundalini, I've had Kundalini now awakened fully within, for 24 years, I think now. And I have been allowed to make almost every mistake a person can make except suicide. People can get real close to that too. And so I do have somewhat of an ability to give you some guidance and some counseling with the Kundalini. And it's, it can be very, very intense for many, many years. And a person can want this so bad. A person can want this so bad that they will do tremendous amounts of practice and stimulation, meditation, pranayama, in order to make this occur. Okay? People will attend, Vipassana courses or do, yoga retreats or, any of the various Asian expressions and practices, from Qigong to even some of the martial arts options that are being given. And I won't suggest that you go at this too fast. Really, give it some time. Don't try to have the Kundalini expression happen to you, within 1 week or within one life. You really need to give it time to transform the body. If you don't give it the time to transport the body, then you can be put into some very different and difficult scenarios. Okay? So don't storm the gates of heaven, I guess is what I'm bringing it all down to. Do not storm the gates of heaven. Do not take a drug or take an herb or do a practice or take Shaktipat from so many thousand different gurus until you finally get something going. Don't do that. Practice the safeties. The safeties are a standalone activation system. If you practice the safeties, then and you do it consistently and with sincerity, then your Kundalini will activate. You won't need anybody. But you can listen to what the Kundalini is telling you. Once again, as I said earlier in this broadcast, the Kundalini hears you. It hears what you're thinking. It hears what you say to other people. It knows what your inner speak is, your inner dialogue. It knows you. And I'll suggest, as I have often, that it knows you better than you know yourself. And within that context, it will often tell us in what direction would be best for us to live in, or ways to remove ourselves from situations that may not be conducive to our spiritual evolution at that time. And one of these would be, our fears. Our fears of losing our status quo, or losing that even when it's just, it's not healthy for us and it's not harmonious for us. And even though we know that, because it's familiar, we'll refuse and we will resist making any change whatsoever. And yet we will often continue to ply the waters of detrimental status quo, even while the ship is sinking. And so we dare not look beyond what we have or know or are doing, or what the current well-known, comfortably numbing experience or painful experience can offer. We will drag our kids and our friends and our family kicking and screaming into our little world of misery, because we're resisting this, and they will soon adopt that world as their own personal status quo of what they have to expect from life. And so you really want to be careful. Be careful about how you resist the Kundalini, because it's not just you that's being affected. It's everyone around you. I have spoken in these broadcasts about the tremendous action that Kundalini radiance has upon people around you. I would strongly suggest that you remember that as you're inside of your daily existence, with your kids and with your friends and with your family, with your workmates, and begin to change your resistance into a non-resistant expression. As you do that, and you'll begin to experience the love and the beauty and the bliss of the Kunalini, so too will those vibrations be given into your family and your friends, your work people, and strangers in general. Now, as you still continue to resist, the Kundalini will try to change that resistance in you. It will give you options to try to come out of resistance, out of fear, out of terror. And you can be given message after message, sign after sign, and often I have found that people will rationalize their way out of it. No matter how extravagant that rationalization may be, we will pull out all the stops and just really try to rationalize our way out of surrendering to the Kundalini. We'll say things such as, oh, now just isn't good for me now. And or we'll think, oh, yes, certainly surrendering would be great, but, maybe later. Or someone might say, well, I don't have the money to surrender right now. I've got to work these 3 jobs. I've got my family. I've got people to feed and whatnot. I just don't have the money to surrender. Or you might say, well, the kids are in school and they have friends, and so I don't want to change anything that might affect them that way, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One of them is one of the biggest ones that I find people saying, potentially to themselves, is that why risk what I have, even though it's terrible, for what I don't have, which could be worse? But what I'm going to, suggest to you is you no longer have that option. You can choose to live in a world of resistance. You can choose to live in a world that will begin to come apart at the seams as the Kundalini continues to push its agenda upon you, and you continue to push that agenda away. And what you're really doing is you're pushing something that is inside of you out of you. And so it's a form of vivisection in a way. And the Kundalini will, of course, not allow this to occur. It will just put you in levels of shall we say, challenging teaching options until you begin to come around. And if you're doing this right now, and you know who you are, if you're doing this right now and you're resisting, you want it to be your way, not the Kundalini way, it's got to be your way, then you will begin to experience the levels of guidance that the Kundalini will bring to you, sometimes harsh, not all the time, but sometimes harsh, that will allow you to understand the error of your ways and hopefully help you connect. The Kundalini can be very insistent that one change, that one embrace the transformation. And sometimes in this insistence, certain qualities of life can be affected or subtracted from the individual's comfort zone in order to help that person's ego consciousness make a move in a given direction away from an unhealthy status quo. Unhealthy status quo is, of course, an attitude of resistance or an attitude of fear or an attitude of self-destruction, things of that nature. Oh, and just by the way, a lot of you at some time during your Kundalini awakening or activation will feel levels of death. You'll feel suicidal. Seriously, this is a very common thing. And I don't want you to misinterpret the feelings of the suicidal feelings at all. what this is the transformation of the ego consciousness, which is what we have lived with for most of our life, if not all of our life. We have lived by the virtues and the decisions made by our ego. And when all of a sudden the Kundalini comes up, it comes up and it takes away the power and control of the ego. And the ego will perceive this as a form of death. And the Kundalini will allow that to occur, because the Kundalini knows what most of us corporeal five sense humans don't really understand, is that death is merely a transformation from one state to another. It is not bad. It is not something to fear. As you begin to embrace your Kundalini, you'll find that these suicidal feelings go away. But I really want you to understand that they are totally associated with your ego. Has nothing to do with anything else. And that would include, say, if you had a substance abuse problem, alcoholism, or any kind of a drug abuse scenario that allowed your ego to feel like it was sick or unhealthy or not right according to societal standards, you do not need to apply those chemically based suicidal symptoms to the Kundalini equation, because it's not the same at all. Those chemically induced suicidal sensations are the ego consciousness of our society trying to produce an effect upon what it perceives as an illness or an imbalance within the person that they're looking at. And Kundalini is not an illness, or you're not sick with Kundalini. You're actually more healthy than you've ever been, but because of your misinterpretation of phenomena such as suicidal feelings, it can put you into a genre that our society feels the need to drug into stupefaction. Well, if they're drugged so heavily they can't hurt themselves, and if they're in a straitjacket in a rubber room full of drugs, well, then they really can't hurt themselves. And then, of course, the awakened human being goes, well, what's the point of life if that is what you have to do to live it? So don't resist the Kundalini. Okay? Do not resist the Kundalini. Santara, I see that you're plugged in. Did you want to make any comment about this?
Hi, Chrism. No, well, I suppose what occurred to me when you were speaking, you mentioned, that a person can think, why risk, that which I have that is terrible for something that could be a lot worse. And I remember at one stage when Kundalini was communicating with me that I was to make a very dramatic change in my life. I actually was going through, negativity or resistance, because I was thinking, well, why risk what I have that is so wonderful for something that could be a disaster? And so I was in a good place, and the change that I was being asked to do was I was in resistance for a while, but exactly as you said, Kundalini is very insistent, and really in so many ways I had no option but to go and do,
Well, that's exactly correct. So, and the Kundalini may insist that one change, and this insistence, it can often come across as an urge or a very, very strong compelling within you to make certain qualities of life become, put into a better level of balance. So something may be subtracted from the comfort zone in order to help the ego mind of the individual make a move in a given direction. So, i.e., the Kundalini will make you uncomfortable in a certain way in order to kind of push you towards a certain pathway of expression. And by expression, I mean living your life. So it may take something from the comfort zone in order to help the ego mind make a move in a given direction away from an unhealthy status quo, even though the person is, would profess to be comfortable within that status quo. The Kundalini will push them away from that. And at first it'll do it with little signs and intuitive messages. And then when these are ignored or rationalized away, pain can become the method of education. And this pain will often coincide with a healthy response to the Kundalini or to the physiology of the person, but the person's ego may not be able to see it. So, for instance, a headache when the person eats or drinks something outside of what the Kundalini determines is healthy for that individual. So, just like our parents, just like mom and dad, if they see you eating the rat poison, they'll go, "Oh, honey, don't eat the rat poison. Here, have this broccoli, this organic, free-range, breastfed broccoli over here, or have that cantaloupe or that watermelon or that banana or that salad or that nut or any of the different foods that we eat." But it will be you will be compelled to eat this way, okay? And the headache is just that gentle nudge towards eating in a better way, according to the Kundalini, than what the individual would normally pick out for themselves. A stomach upset or abdominal pain can also do this, okay? And once again, this is all about the Kundalini. It has nothing to do with what you would normally do for a stomach ache or a headache. It's not a reason to run for the aspirin or the Tylenol or the ibuprofen or you don't need to run to the ER and go, "Oh my God, I need my stomach pumped. It hurts down there," or "My appendix is ready to blow." Now, I don't mind you going to the ER. 95% of the time when you go to the ER for a Kundalini event, they don't find anything. They'll run you through all the tests and you name it. They'll take the labs. They'll do the visuals and they'll go, "Oh, Mr. Chrism, maybe you're just having some indigestion." So the ER won't recognize it. And you can go there though if that's the response that you need to take. Then you can go ahead and go there. It's not going to change anything. You'll still have that stomach upset unless you surrender to the Kundalini and you go, "Oh, okay, I will have that organic, free-range, breastfed broccoli, and I will love it."
Can I say something as well, Chris?
Sure. Go right ahead.
About safeties. I mean, one of the things that I found over time was that the safeties, by practicing the safeties and by committing to that practice, this actually helps to change resistance. It really does, because the actual practicing of, it's hard to explain about the safeties, but my experience of them is that they really work on so many levels that are amazing. Like they seem to reach, through the practice, they reach into all the different levels of resistance that we have. And there are, in my experience of myself, layer after layer after layer. And it's like the safeties melt resistance, brings change, moved me into what it is that my Kundalini, wanted for me. Even I wasn't always aware, the practice of the safeties brought these things to me as well. So, even just the commitment to doing the safeties brings about huge change of themselves. And I know you say that they are also an awakening platform, but if you are already, within a Kundalini process, they really do bring balance to the process. They're not always easy peasy, but they are effective and
thing,
wonderful,
Thank you. That's absolutely true. They are not always easy peasy. Please don't think that. I mean, I know you have a lot of the beautiful, beautiful, wonderful, sweet, dear, lovely New Age fairies, roaming around with their fairy dust and going, "Oh, we are one, and we're all one, and therefore we're all one, therefore everything's all right." But it's just not always that way, because we have karma that we need to balance, and the reason we have karma that we need to balance is because it's not always okay with what we have done in the past, and perhaps not what we're doing currently within our life expression. And so it isn't always easy, especially if we talk about the DNS or Dark Night of Soul, like we talked with last week. It is not easy at all. When you see your reality begin to fall to pieces around you while you're still there, connected to your old reality, well, it can scare the heck out of you. You start hearing voices and seeing things that nobody else is hearing or seeing, well, it starts to shred your reality. You think you're going crazy. And by societal terms, you would be correct. Okay, you would be correct. So, these first signs and these intuitive messages are very, very important for you. They are given to you as a way to free you from the comfort as a safe and familiar world, regardless of how bad it is. It saves you from being addicted to that sorry situation that you've grown used to. Okay, and so, if these signs, and if you just don't want to ignore these things, and it extends to your job loss as well. Kundalini can get you fired from your job. It may not like that you're a welder. It may not like that you're a truck driver. It may not like that you're a person that's working in a computer industrial complex and you're breathing in all these toxic heavy metals. And even though, it goes, it's within the standards of what our society deems as okay, the Kundalini doesn't deem it okay, and therefore it wants you to move, and therefore it will position itself within your consciousness as a force of change, job change. It can make your job so unlivable that you will voluntarily quit. And then it will open up that new job waiting for you. And you need to have the confidence in the competency of the Kundalini as you wait for that next employment opportunity, rather than succumbing to the fear of loss and the want of gain. Once again, there's that equation. The fear of loss and the want of gain. Take those things out of your equation, out of your Kundalini equation. Okay? So I'm going to suggest that you pay attention to what the Kundalini is attempting to bring into your life. It'll bring it nicely at first, but perhaps not so nicely later on. And when we talk about surrender to the Kundalini, this is one of the finer, important components. Doing that which is given for you to do, even though it is outside of your comfort zone. Especially when it's outside of your comfort zone. We need to have the courage to act upon that which is given. We need to have the courage to act upon that which the Kundalini is giving us. It isn't always surrendering to that which is comfortable or easily done. It's a surrender and a balance to the guidance that knows us better than we know ourselves, and that guidance which is the guiding force of our transformation. Our transformation, the gift from the divine consciousness. Okay? This force of transformation, this gift from the divine consciousness, that is the scorch mark on the tree from the divine lightning that has struck. This is where the rubber meets the road and the chaff is separated from the grain. This is for those who are inside of the Kundalini awakening or coming into it as a potential reality for themselves. The challenges to the comfort zones can come thick and heavy, and they're heavy laden with inner and outer changes as we are trying to respond to those changes in a supporting role of acting upon them when they are given. It's not about being comfortable with the changes as much as it's about being uncomfortable with the changes and changing anyway. You sacrifice your comfort sometimes, a lot of times with the Kundalini. You're not used to having that lower back pressure. And we'll often interpret that lower back pressure as pain because it's unusual, it's strange, and therefore it's to be feared, and therefore it's to be reinterpreted as a painful event, when in fact it can simply be just a level of pressure. As the Kundalini collects at the base of the spine, it will cause that level of lower spinal pressure and tension. But our anxiety is what really adds to the tension. And the tension will have an effect on the muscles, and the muscles will begin to express in a certain way that will allow us to have actual pain when before there was no need for pain at all. If you had an idea of what was occurring and you had reference points for it, there would be no pain. Often the Kundalini is just pressuring and pressuring and pressuring to the point where it forces you to remove the blockages that are at this point holding back a greater flow. And by removing these blockages, you allow the greater flow to come in. And one of these techniques is to surrender to it and to get out of your own way. Get your fear and your fear of loss and your want of gain. Take that out of your Kundalini equation. You don't need it, and it doesn't need you to have it there. Okay. Really, really, really focus on that. And the challenge is, I want you to consider this as you go through your days and your nights of your awakening or your activation. Look and discern for that which is being given to you intuitively or otherwise by the Kundalini as it expresses within you. Follow this inner guidance as best you can. Now, I know some of you listening to this program right now are listening in response to the guidance that the Kundalini within you has given. And this guidance and this information that you're getting should act as a form of positive reference material for you. That, you are doing this, and it is doing you, and you are both hand in hand coming into this beautiful, beautiful spiritual evolution of Kundalini grace upon the material world. And you're that material world that the Kundalini grace has come upon. Okay, the divine, it has very little in the way of limitations with regards to the ways and means that's needed for the Kundalini advancement. It can do anything pretty much that it wants, but because we are an aspect of love within the jewel, the many faceted jewel of love. And let's talk about some of those facets of the jewel of love. Well, we have tough love. We have saying sorry. We have forgiveness. We have tolerance. We have compassion, sympathy. There are many, many, many facets of love to the jewel that is love. And as we are facets of that jewel of love, so are we often returned or stimulated by that from the Kundalini as we allow it and surrender to it to advance within our bodies and within our psychologies. And it's well known what your karma is by the Kundalini. Kundalini knows your karma. This is why I have such a problem with some of these folks that come out and say, "Well, I see that you in a past life you were a ditch digger and you fell flat on your face and had a heart attack and a stroke and all of this stuff, and so now that you have this terrible karma of not being able to complete the job." They don't know your karma. I don't care how trusted a friend they are. I don't care how pretty or handsome they are. I don't care what they say they can do. Sometimes people live their lives based upon the folly of their wants and desires. And they'll call themselves a great shaman or a master past life karma reader. And they don't know your karma, but your Kundalini Your Kundalini knows your karma, and it knows why you are having this life and how to offer the you, that spiritual individual, the options that will be best for the continued development towards and within the expressive divine matrix. So find your courage and find your faith and act upon the guidance that is being given. Big or small, get in the habit of discerning the changes and then surrendering to these changes. You know, we will all have these gifts of knowingness from the Kundalini within as we go into the Kundalini awakening process. Everybody gets these to the degree that they can. And yes, they are unique to the individual. So what I get, you won't necessarily get, and what you get, I won't necessarily get. But there will be some similarities. Okay? Make the changes that your Kundalini is suggesting for you to make. Really. Make the changes, even if it stretches your incredulity. Make the changes and count on the inner divine to walk you hand in hand into the heavenly fields that you as yet can't discern. But I guarantee you, your view will improve as you learn to trust. Now, I'd like to give the phone numbers out again, or the phone number, and that is United States area code 347-934-0026. And I'd like to say hello to Julie. I see that you have joined us. Nice to see you there. And all the other, the guest numbers, I can't really see so much. But hello to all of you who are currently listening on telephones and on your computers, and thank you for doing so. Brandon, something that you have been dealing with lately, and I'm going to go ahead and dive into it here. Brandon belongs to the Yahoo group, and he's right in the middle of some of the more, shall we say, difficult aspects of a Kundalini awakening. He's having some experience with certain types of entities that like to drain life force energy from us, whether or not we are willing to give it or not. And so, Brandon, I'd like to go ahead and talk about this, not necessarily strictly to you, because this is a fairly widespread phenomena. These entities, there's a lot of different entities that can come and visit. One species of entity is a succubus and an incubus, and these are sexual feeders. They try to they can see a person as having Kundalini, and they know that as a person has the Kundalini, specific levels of arousal, sexual arousal can be had within that Kundalini. And what they do is they hook up to the person, and then they begin to drain the life force. And they'll use any method they can to hook up with a person and drain that life force off. And, I had these two. Early on in my process. One of the things that I haven't said before is the importance of learning about astral projection. Incubi and succubi are astral creatures that can go into the blend to a certain level. They can go into a certain level of the astral and physical blend in order to achieve, their hunt or to use as hunting grounds. And we are that prey. The Kundalini awakening people or other people are that prey. And they won't just feed off of Kundalini awakening people. They'll feed off of people that are being sexually tormented, sailors on those long voyages, from, say, China to San Francisco or China to Los Angeles. That's a long voyage for commercial seamen to make. And, you don't have a lot of recourse, shall we say, with the within the social graces of meeting the opposite sex. And so a lot of fantasies are being given. And the incubi and the succubi will come to these people and encourage the fantasies and also feed off of those fantasies as well. But within the Kundalini context, you see them. It's not pretty. They are not pretty. No matter what they disguise themselves to you, they are not pretty. And I think Brandon may support me on that. They're kind of greasy, really. They're just not. I mean, who am I to say what beauty is? I'm sure an incubi is beautiful to a succubi and vice versa. But to me, they're not anything that I would want to procreate with. And that is the area. That is the area that they attack us within. Is, we are so profoundly inundated and saturated with pornography and sexual excitation and arousal. We're even dressing up our 5- and 6-year-olds as beauty queen contestants, running around in whatever. So that serves the purposes of incubi and succubi quite nicely, because as we come into our Kundalini awakening and we respond to that arousal, we'll respond to that arousal in the ways that we always have, without making any corrections. And so, we'll respond to that arousal in a, shall we say, a fetish-oriented or a pornographically oriented sexual expression. And these beings will come and feed upon on that life force that's coming out of you during that expression, during that experience, shall we say. The importance of astral projection is to be able to astral project at will. I don't know if this is just me. I haven't heard too many other people express it. But when the incubi and the succubi were bothering me, well, what would happen is I would see them. I'd wake up, typically I'd be sleeping, and I'd feel a pressure over my waist. And I'd wake up and I'd see this dark form over me, and I knew pretty much intuitively what was going on. And I would tell them to leave, and I'd tell them to leave. They are not allowed to do this. You do not have permission to do this. You're going to leave. And they don't leave. So one day, I was sleeping. It was like, 6 or 7 in the morning. And once again, they were on top of me trying to drain my life force. And I just got really fed up with it at that point. I'd warned them, and I'd warned them, and I'd warned them. And this time, I was not going to warn them anymore. I was going to take a proactive position with this. And I instantly astral projected to where they were. And I instantly produced, shall we say, a helpful device that I was able to hold in my hand and convince the male that this is not appropriate, even though he wasn't doing it. But they always come in pairs. And I went up to the female, which I can see to this day as being this kind of a monstrous-looking type of creature. And because of my social upbringing, my mother, we were always told, boys never hit girls. They never, ever hit girls. And so, of course, I was held back by that programming at teaching this one a really, really strong lesson. But I taught it to the male, and she knew. She watched. And I was about ready to teach it to her, and my programming stopped me. But I told her, never, ever come back again, or I will come back again, and I won't stop. I will not hesitate. You stay away from me. And it worked. But I don't know that other people have this instant astral projection thing. I've been able to do that a few times in my past, but that is how I was able to deal with it. But you need to be consistent, because they will come back again and again and again and again. And you need to be very consistent with your response. So for any of you that are having these visitations by the succubi and the incubi, do not go into fear. Better to go into a bit of anger about it, Go into some anger, and the anger will feed your courage. And don't feel that you are powerless against these entities. You are not powerless against these entities. I could do a whole show on how you are not powerless against these entities. And I want you to respond strongly, and do not encourage the feeding to occur. That will not help you one bit. Do not encourage. Roll over on your side, on your stomach. They will take advantage of the position that you're lying on in your bed or wherever you're having this experience. They'll take advantage of the position. If you change the position, that means they have to change too. There's a lot of these weird little rules in the astral that doesn't necessarily correspond with the physical, but sometimes does. And so if you change your position, that changes their access point, and then you interrupt the feeding from that level. For those of you that have the Kundalini and you're having these experiences, do not be afraid. Do not lash out in anger, even though I have to admit that's what I did at first. I was pissy about that. It's like, don't you come on to me. Don't you sit on me. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, after a while, you don't. Let me go back to the jewel of love that we are. This is a tough love learning experience for teaching specific species of predator that you are no longer to be their prey. They can find it somewhere else. There's plenty of it to go around. Okay? So tough love expressions are very doable within the Kundalini. Okay? They're very doable, and I suggest it strongly. I mean, it worked for me. It worked for me. I gave them the loving time to cease and desist. They chose not to. They chose not to, and within their choice, my new response was manufactured within the choices that the incubi and the succubi made. And after that, after I gave them another reason not to come to me, they hadn't. Okay, so know this: if you're experiencing this type of an entity infraction upon your personal space, do not fear it. And if you wake up and you're having a sexual experience and it's one of these kind of twisted sexual experiences, don't feel bad. Don't you feel bad? It's another level of understanding and interaction with the astral that you need to learn about. That's all it is. That's all it is. And the more you can astral project and learn about some of the rules within the astral, the better it will go for you. The better it will go for you, okay? So that's just, I wanted to cover that because I haven't been able to cover it in writing so much. Okay, so, excuse me. So look, with the Kundalini comes an internal spiritual renaissance. And as we flow through the infusion and into the changes in a positive expression, into the changes of all of the bodies of Kundalini expression, and as they become more and more pronounced, we become aware of the many attitudes and emotional expressions of those around us. And it's a form of mental emotional telepathy. Telepathy is one of the most common of the first of the ascended skills to be given by a person, to a person from the Kundalini. Telepathy comes in different wavelengths. You can have a narrow band telepathy, which is just one person or one animal or one insect or one plant or one spiritual being. Or you can have a broad band telepathy where there's much less filtration. And you can hear, like, say, if you're walking through a mall, you can hear everybody's thoughts, but you don't know too much. Sometimes you can see who it's coming from, but it can be such a barrage that it's hard to decipher. Whereas if you're in a narrow band scenario, it's much easier to decipher. Once again, though, if you have telepathy, that means those that use thoughts as a form of common communication, they have communication with you, such as an entity. Sometimes people hear lots of entities, and they'll, if this is to be part of your Kundalini awakening expression, well, they can communicate with you. I'll just suggest that you never ever communicate with them on purpose. Accidentally is one thing, but once you learn, don't enjoy any kind of a communication with them. And as you do not communicate with them, they will simply fall away to somebody else who is, shall we say, more social with them. But as we flow through all these infusions and our attitudes and our emotional expressions become exalted by the Kundalini, this begins from the radiance to affect other people. And if you're feeling really, really toxic, well, then your toxic feelings, as I mentioned before in the show, can come to other people. And this is the reason why the safeties are very, very important, because it's a form of radiance. Radiance nurturing. You're nurturing your radiance to be loving and helpful and forgiving and non-judgmental to the degree that you're allowed to by the Kundalini. And through these levels, say, of forgiveness, is the place of non-judgment being shown. So as you forgive, you're forgiving totally and without judgment. And as we walk through the populations in our life, the American population, the European population, African, Asian, Australian, Indonesian, Indian, as we walk through all these different populations in the world, and we read the energies of the people that are more, that are being challenging in their life expression right now, like, say, molesters or thieves or rapists or murderers. We forgive as we go. As we walk among the predators and the prey, we forgive as we go. It is not for us to judge these brothers and sisters. It is for us to light the way for their own realizations of how to come into this harmony. Look and see. It looks like I'm running out of time here. Yeah, 32 minutes. Okay. It is for us to light that way for them to come into the harmony of their own current and past deeds. And we do this through an ever-present, exalted forgiveness. At first it can be shocking, really, really shocking to feel these expressions and frequencies and visions. It'll be almost as if you're a voyeur into the dark secrets of another person, and we are that to some degree. And yes, we are aware of these secrets, which are only secrets to the majority of humanity, but not to those who are Kundalini awakened. This is why it is so very necessary to walk without judgment, because we have walked in the shoes of those oppressors. We have been that oppressor. We have been that murderer, that rapist, that molester, that thief, that all of those, expressions. We have walked in those shoes, which should give you an idea of how long it's taken you to even know about the word Kundalini. We are, shall we say, recipients of a very well-rounded education, and that includes the bad as well as the good. And so, yeah, it can be shocking to witness and experience these frequencies. And once again, you just need to forgive. Everything that we have done is there for all to see from a spiritual vantage point. There is no such thing as privacy. The only privacy that we have is this idea of privacy from other people who are behind the veil. But even then, as we have Kundalini, we come out from behind the veil to a large degree, and we can see what a person has done and what they are doing and all of these things. And yet, because we're only seeing it through the gift of grace, we must hold sacred space for those souls that are going through that educational process. Doesn't mean that holding sacred space allows them to steal from you or rape from you or molest you in any way. No, not at all. Not at all. And that really, unless there's some sort of a karmic reason for you to have that occur from that individual, it won't occur. Your Kundalini is just giving this to you as a way to educate you about karma, about your current attitudes within a Kundalini awakening event. You are no longer merely human. You are in an exalted stage, and that is not to say that you're holding your evolution over other people. Of course not. They will come to be where you are right now at another time. Okay? But as you walk through the populations, you walk with forgiveness. You walk as the saints have walked among us. Okay? And I mean the current saints and those that have passed as well. You walk like St. Francis of Assisi. You forgive, and you collect all those animals and all those people, and your radiance is that of a divine grace, a divine nature. And that amplifies your forgiveness into that of a divine forgiveness, an exalted forgiveness, a forgiveness that is far away from your normal understanding of what forgiveness is. We see these things as Kundalini people, and we feel them as well. And when we forgive, we are able to release any attachments or matching experiences we may have had in previous existences. In other words, by forgiving these folks, you can really begin to work on in a way upon your own karma. If you have any residual karmic experience with being raped or molested or having someone steal things from you. So we can release any attachments or matching experiences we may have had in previous existences. From that forgiveness, we attain neutrality or balance. From balance, we are able to show an expression of nonpartisan reverential love for all of our fellow mortals. And when I say all of our fellow mortals, I mean humans and animals and insects and fish and all forms of living creation on our world. Okay? And for all creation, from spirits to incarnated spirits, we are able to flow the divine natures that are given to us from the Kundalini. And we are indeed conscious bastions of divine love, from which a special frequency of love is able to be given to others from the mere radiation of our radiance. But we must open to it consciously within our awakening process. So really, take a moment and just open to your radiance and open to the forgiveness that can modulate your radiance. It's just to have spinal sweeps and Kundalini activation isn't enough. You need to pay attention to what is being communicated to you through those experiences. Yes, they're very important experiences, but what they are really communicating to you is the initial presence of the divine force within you. Now I'm asking you to listen to the guidance that divine presence is giving you. Okay? You must still act and choose to act appropriately upon the gifts of the Kundalini that you're given. And so the safeties, as Amelia Santara mentioned, the safeties can help the activated and awakening individual to attain into the higher expressions. Okay? As we share in the finer and denser frequency emanations from our brothers and sisters and fellow mortals, we are being given we are being offered the gifts of holy integrity. And this we must nurture as these gifts, and we must nurture and respect and honor the integrity that they represent. We must act upon these gifts in order to activate and plant their seeds within us and to others around us. Okay. Now, once again, I want to give out the numbers. Running out of time here for any of you that might want to call. The number is area code 347-934-0026. So if you have any kind of a question, call the number 347-934-0026. We have about 24 minutes left. Amelia, did you have anything you wanted to add or comment on?
No, Chrism, not that's coming to mind, but thank you very much. That's very, I just loved that. Thank you very much. But you know what I will do? I just mentioned the seminar again, if I may. May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say how really honoured, I am to be welcoming you, to be welcoming Chrism to Ireland again in a month's time. And I just want to take it, this opportunity to tell those of you listening who live in Europe that this really is an opportunity for you to come and visit with Chrism here in Ireland. Living in the UK or living in Europe, it's actually very easy now to pop on a Ryanair flight, and in an hour or two you'll be in Dublin. And where I might add, we will arrange our transport to the seminar venue. So we'll be staying at a lovely venue from Friday until Sunday in the Boyne Valley in County Meath. Now, the Boyne Valley is kind of equivalent in a way to Egypt's Valley of the Kings. The Boyne Valley, it's a very ancient place with lots of megalithic monuments that are actually older than the pyramids. So it's a perfect place to meet our Kundalini Awakening teacher and to open ourselves to our own Kundalini Awakening. So again, I'd just like you to consider maybe really coming and to take this opportunity to do so. So you can go to the website and check out, I have a Facebook event there, so you can find it at Kundalini Awakening Seminar, or you can just put St. Tara into the Facebook search and send me a message, or again, you can contact me by email, kundalinimatters@gmail.com, and we can communicate there. Or if you want to phone me and you live outside of Ireland, I'll give you my phone number as well. It's 00353 029 7676, and all that information is available as well on the Yahoo group. So thanks, Chrism.
Thank you, Amelia Centaura. And I want to talk a little bit about Newgrange and the Hill of Tara. I want to give you a name of a race of humanity that visited Ireland about 8,000 years ago and stayed in control of Ireland for a number of thousands of years. The Irish people have a certain way of pronouncing their name, which is probably more correct than the way that I'm going to pronounce it. But I'm going to pronounce it the way that most of us see it when we read it. And it's the name of the race of people is called the Tuatha or Tuatha, Tuatha, De, that would be D as in dog, E, De Danann or Danaan, or as the how do the Irish say it, Amelia?
Well, different places pronounce it differently, but I would say the Tuatha De Danann.
Tuatha De Danann, yeah. Now, my first experience with the Tuatha De Danann was in a vision, and this is this was after my second awakening, and by that I mean that I came into this life with the emanations of a previous lifetime of Kundalini awakening. So I came in, I was not allowed to remember the previous lifetime, but I had all the skills of a Kundalini awakened person as a child, but this body had not yet had its own awakening, and each body needs to have its awakening. So I had the second awakening, when I was in my 30s, and a representative of this race came to me, or of another race came to me, and very, very tall individual, about 16 feet, very beautiful, and it pointed to a castle in Ireland, and it looked at me and it said, "De Danann." De Danann. And so I saw it. I saw what it was pointing at, and so on and so forth. And so after that, I started looking. It's like, God, what is going on with De Danann? There was no internet, so it tells you how old I am. Cell phones were just starting to get popular, I think. So I had to go into bookstores. I had to look all over the books. I finally found a bookstore in a place called Calistoga, California, where they do a lot of massage and mud baths and things like that. And I finally found reference to the name Tuatha De Danann. Okay, and I started reading about the De Danann. I had no idea why I was being given this information by one of the De Dananns or another entity that was pointing me towards that information. And the De Danann were a very powerful race of beings that had certain abilities that nobody else around them had. And this corresponds fairly close to Kundalini awakened type of skills and references. And very skilled metallurgist, very skilled in some aspects of sorcery, which I don't support. But as I began to learn more and more about the Tuatha, of course they were based in Ireland, and they were sincerely based, right where we are having this Kundalini Awakened seminar. As a matter of fact, Newgrange and the Hill of Tara and all of these areas in County Meath, the Hill of Tara is where the legend has that they went into the earth. They didn't leave Ireland. They were not displaced so much as they decided to go into Ireland. They became the people of the hills, which eventually translated into the word she or fairy in Gaelic. And the people that we now call fairies, or of that astral and physical nature, that is where they are. And let me tell you what, the last time I did a little ceremony at the Hill of Tara, which I won't be doing again at this seminar, we'll do something else, those entities came out strong and in force, and they are still there. And so there's a very great possibility that you may come in contact with remnants of a physical population called the Tuatha De Danann. And it's very interesting. It's very powerful people, very powerful race, and they do still have active effect upon the populations in Ireland. Now, I don't know why my Kunalini has decided that Ireland is the place where I'm going to be doing a lot of these seminars, but I have a feeling it has to do with the Tuatha De Danann. They are the ones that built Newgrange. Okay. They are the ones that had that secret technology that allowed them to lift extremely heavy, large boulders that weigh, thousands of tons. They could lift them and put them into certain geometrical circular positions. If you go to Ireland, there are many standing stones in circles that are still there from those times and from previous times. And so, yeah, Ireland is a very, very special place upon this planet, as is the south of France and parts of England and Scotland, and in the United States with regards to the mound builders, the Serpent Mound in Ohio and these other places. So I am letting you know this about the Tuatha because they are still actually there. They're just not there for the mundane mind to appreciate, but they're there for the Kundalini awakened person to appreciate. So just it's an FYI. It's a very, very special ancient place, and I'm very encouraged and excited about doing Shaktipat and giving people education and information about the Kundalini awakening, much as I'm doing right here, right now with you. Okay? So look at this and realize this. Now, when you come to a seminar, my energy is much stronger in person. It gets turned. I can feel the Kundalini turning itself up within me. You could literally feel that, by the way. All of a sudden, you're just hotter than, like you're just cooking, and you know that everybody's cooking around you as well. So I encourage everyone who can come to this. It's a very special event. I don't make it to Europe that much. It seems like I do, but I don't, and certainly not within the context of a seminar. So any of you who are in Europe, who are listening to this, if you can at all make it, come to this seminar. Contact Amelia Santara at KundaliniMatters@gmail.com. Really contact her and make those arrangements. It's not that hard. Like she said, I've flown in Ryanair. You just don't want to bring a lot of suitcases with Ryanair, but they give you extremely affordable flight rates. Extremely affordable flight rates. Another one that you might be able to use for Dublin is what's that? EasyJet.
EasyJet. They're not actually flying to Dublin, unfortunately.
Oh, they were the last time. Okay, all right. So good. Now, in the 12 minutes that I have left, I'm going to try to cover this. It's called grounding. The more energy you have, even Kundalini energy, it isn't always the best answer. So I know a lot of systems really promote how to generate the energy, but they don't tell you how to deal with it. And some of them are really hard to deal with. Just go to Kundalini Syndrome and listen to that conversation we've had. Kundalini Syndrome is a very real thing, and that's people being in resistance and fear of the phenomena and of the Kundalini itself. So many systems really focus on achieving the Kundalini activation and awakening without any regard to the enormous amounts of energetic potential released into the body. And so, the focus is commonly strictly on practices that generate copious amounts of chi energy or learning to work with prana energy, and in order to hopefully produce or kickstart a Kundalini event. Qigong is this way when utilized for Kundalini expression. Inside of the Kundalini, when it's already there, we can get over our heads into the energetics, and there are very few reliable remedies that will help us to alleviate symptoms of energetic overload. Grounding is one of them. Grounding is, it's a system that can greatly relieve an overload of energy within the Kundalini context. So please listen carefully. When we eat, we begin to ground by switching the focus of the body to an autonomic function. Chewing, tasting, swallowing, digesting, defecating, urinating, having sex, all of these things takes the ego mind and the intentional or unintentional focus off of the energetic waves of phenomena. It's kind of like putting your body into maintenance mode. And so that forces the ego to take its mind off of the phenomena that might be scaring the person. So you want to eat. Fruits and veggies are less grounding. Meats and root veggies will be more grounding than the fruits and nuts. Juices of fruits are less grounding than juices of veggies, and so forth. You have to look at the doctrine of signature. The doctrine of signature is a recognition of what a creation does, and how it grows, where it's growing, how it does what it does. So, for instance, a carrot, it grows in the earth. Its color is orange, okay? It helps the eyes. So the second chakra and the sixth chakra and the first chakra will form a triangle of expression within the idea of the carrot. It is also shaped in the form of a Shiva lingam. Okay, the expressive organ of the sacred male. And so you look at that whole thing, the color, the shape, how it's grown, where it's grown, what it affects on the body, and you look at that as the doctrine of signature. So the doctrine of signature of veggies are different than the doctrine of signature for fruits. Having a sexual experience, as I mentioned, can do this, but the sexual expression must be outside the tantric model, because once again, we're not trying to produce more energy. We're trying to deal with the energy we've already got. Okay? So meat is a very grounding nutrient. Okay? And sometimes you'll be forced to eat meat for this purpose, especially if you're overly addicted to the energetic generative techniques. And then, of course, having sex outside of tantric sex. The sex drive is another example of the autonomic system, and relieving oneself, or aerobic physical exercise, hard work, working in the dirt, working in the ground, sitting next to a tree. All of these can serve to help a person come into a grounding expression rather than constantly being, spiked by huge energetic bursts that literally burst out the top of your head. I mean, it can be very, very disconcerting. You can get headaches, and because you've only been trained to produce energies, different energies, to try to get to the Kundalini. Well, that's the only recourse you have. And I'm saying no. You have enough energy. Now start to learn how to ground, because it's just like electricity. Unless you're grounded, the flow is not going to happen. Well, same with the Kundalini. If you're totally ungrounded, your flow is not going to happen. You're just going to get burned out in different levels. Let's see, I've got 7 minutes left. Okay. So Kundalini is an intelligent consciousness in its own right, and it will recognize this unbalanced lack of grounding that you have, and it will support your grounding attempts. It will help you. It will help you go there. It will not. It won't go away, giving into the person's ego or wishes, but it will honor the sacred vessel as that sacred vessel brings into expression the functions of physical body grounding maintenance. So Kundalini is there to change us. It's not here to hurt us. It only hurts us because our egos will resist the agenda of transformation, and the Kundalini won't allow that. So grounding can really help that agenda, as well as we are part of the Earth's Sacred Mother and part Cosmos' Sacred Father. This brings the dual and non-dual agenda into a single unit of plurality, of a singular plurality is the best way that our words can make it right now. So when we ground, or we anchor our energies into that balance, subsequently some grounding techniques will involve the soil. Getting into the dirt by working in the garden, or working as a farmer, or working in the fields, or getting into the mud of the river or the lake or the pond or the beach. Get into it and feel it and honor it and feel your energy begin to balance. It isn't unclean. Dirt is not dirty. It's natural. It is as natural as your body, and it is that which makes up your body. So honor this mud and soil and get into it truly. Truly get into it. Okay? And then I've spoken to you before, I think, about leaning against a tree and feel the roots spread out from the base of your spine into the soil once again. These types of things. And just to, again, I'm going to, because I've talked about this before, but I want to run through it again with the little amount of time that I have left. These are the are some grounding options. You'll know others as you come into them. Eating, sex, bodily relief functions, exercise, hard work, gardening and soil, mud, trees, barefoot, naked in nature. These all will help you ground yourself within the Kundalini, and these do not engage much in the way of technology. And I found this is good. This is good. Okay. So just know that that you really are loved. This is an absolutely beautiful experience. If I don't focus on the beauty enough in these conversations, it's because the beauty is self-evident. The love, the bliss, the ecstasy, these are self-evident. I can't explain these to you because they're beyond words. I can only focus on things that I am given as voices from many different people that I've worked with before. You know, these are the voices of people that have asked for guidance within the Kundalini. It is their voices that are driving this conversation right now. You may not experience everything that I talk about, but I'm pretty sure within the Kundalini context, you will experience some aspects of what I'm talking about. And within that understanding and that experience, I'm going to suggest that you find your way to ground yourself. Don't always try to generate more. More is not always better. Fast is not always better. Slow down and take care of the earth aspect of yourself as much as you try to inculcate the cosmic, energetic aspect of the Kundalini. Okay? It looks like I'm out of time, my friends. Oh, I have 3 minutes. So I would like to thank Rosemary, Eileen, Santara, Vashti, Brandon, Julie, guest 2374 and 2447 for waiting with me the whole the whole 2 hours. I think it is 2 hours. Yes. Thank you for listening. And remember, there is a Kundalini Awakening seminar in Europe on the dates that were mentioned, and I think it's going to be a very, very special event, and I encourage everyone in Europe and the United States and Africa and Asia and Scandinavia to come, awaken the Kundalini within you, bring yourself into this new expression of spiritual, physical evolution, and thank you for listening.